Hey guys, King of Charmaster. Today I will be your judge, your jury, and your analyst. And just like a Windows update that takes forever to update, I'm just kidding. PvPoke.com is an amazing website, and thus today the Great League Remix top teams were actually updated. So you still have, let's see, today's Tuesday, so Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday. Well, if you want to include, you can actually play Great League Remix up until the League Switch, Ultra League and Ultra League Remix until 1 p.m. on Monday. So you still have a few days to play Great League Remix. So with that being said, since they got updated, these are going to be the top 5 teams for the Great League Remix. So the teams did get updated, and as I always say, please consider contributing to PvPoke.com. And for the top teams, it's really interesting. A lot of these teams, a lot of people aren't really using them. As you see, 0.4%, etc. If you scroll down, a lot of people are actually using a lot, like, really unique combinations, like, well, not really unique. Nidoqueen Double Dark, or like Superior Rainy Casper, well, more like ABB teams, as you see here. But as you see, the top teams aren't actually being used a lot, so I'm going to analyze them, and they statistically perform well. So without further ado, let's get started. Again, these are the top 5 teams for the Great League Remix Part 2. Alright, so for team number 5, we have Jellicent, Frostless, and Registeel. Frostless is an incredibly powerful Say Switch, and after 5 seconds of looking at this team, I realized that this is one of my top... Can I stop calling top teams? It's not that I don't want to call them, it's just, you know, I called it, but that means I don't have... I like analyzing stuff that's new, but to put it down, yes, I already analyzed this team before, but this is basically Jellicent lead, Frostless, Say Switch, Registeel, which is one of the most powerful closers. If you go down here, this team is great across the board, as in its B for covers. It doesn't make straight A's. You know, as a Filipino American and as an Asian, you want straight A's. Your mom and your dad want you to have straight A's. Unfortunately, this team doesn't have straight A's, but it will still get you a lot of W's in the Great League Remix. As you see here, this team is really freaking good against Diggersby. In the 2-shield, a Jellicent with Bubble Beam will give a Diggersby a hard time just because you debuff the unholy heck out of it, and Jellicent resists Fire Punch. So this team does excessively well against a lot. Basically, it does excessively well against pretty much Cresselia. Cresselia is an incredibly powerful Say Switch. However, Jellicent with Shadow Ball, Frostless, and Registeel all do heavy damage against Cresselia. So as you see here, this team is really good for the exception of one thing: Sableye Say Switch. So Sableye Say Switch are basically anything with Lick, just because of Frostless and Jellicent both being weak to Ghost types. This team is still exceptionally powerful though. Frostless with Energy and Shields is an incredible strategy, and the Frostless 2-shield strategy is just really, really freaking good. Break Shield with Frostless, close out with Jellicent and Registeel, and as you see, it still does really well against a lot of Pokemon and a lot of teams. This team has a 683 threat score, high on the threat score scale. However, the reason why this team is so freaking good is because you don't encounter a lot of these weaknesses. As you see here, electric types aren't too common. At the same time, Frostless will still put heavy pressure on your opponent, and Jellicent and Registeel are 2 incredibly powerful Pokemon. If you look at the analysis, as you see here, it's at 544. So a lot of people are this is actually the most used team compared to all the other teams at 0.6%. So a lot of people are using it, and I can tell you from experience, as I've used it before and tested it, it's a really, really good team. So if you like Registeel and Frostless, this is a great team for you to use. Alright, with team number 4, we got Machamp, Cresselia Say Switch, and Diggersby. I think Diggersby can also function as a Say Switch, so this is kind of a double Say Switch team. And this was also on my top 5 Diggersby teams. Yeah, this was on one of my top 5 teams as well. Anyways, as you see here, this team is incredibly strong. C for cover, it's only good coverage, but it has a lot of bulk because of Cresselia and Diggersby. Cresselia and Diggersby's bulk is enough because they have really thick butts, and their butts are thick enough to where they cover Machamp's Machamp's glassiness, because Machamp isn't the bulkiest thing in the world. However, this team's also extremely safe. Like I said, double Say Switch, and it has a B for consistency. So overall, grading-wise, it's really good. This team is basically kill Diggersby and kill Obstagoon. Well, with Machamp really. Machamp lead is incredibly good just because there are a lot of Obstagoon leads or Diggersby leads or just anything weak to fighting in general in the leads. Cresselia is a fantastic save switch. Diggersby also functions as a save switch and does heavy damage along with having an obscene amount of bulk. That's why this team's so good. This team, however, the one thing about this team is that Flyers can give you a hard time. Machamp and Diggersby fall to Flyers. However, because Pidgeot is banned, it's not that dangerous. And Diggersby can still do a decent amount of damage with Fire Punch. And of course, Machamp still has Rock Slide to close out. However, despite those weaknesses, this team is still very, very powerful. As you see here at a 548 rating. So 1 or 2 individuals were actually using this team. It's really strong. It grades at 5. It's one of the top 5 teams, so it statistically will get you a lot of wins. The only issue is just be careful of Flyers, but because, again, like I mentioned, because Pidgeot is banned, you're not going to see a lot of Flyer leads. You might see some Drifblims or Tropiuses, etc. However, this team is still excessively powerful, standing with a 740 threat score. The one thing you might want to watch out for is you see Victory Bell? Yeah. If you see Victory Bell, run. Just because Victory Bell can essentially wipe out Diggersby in the back. And it can wipe out your Cresselia in the 2-shield. So Victory Bell, be very careful of Shadow Victory Bell leads. So if you don't want to encounter that, there are 4 other teams that do excessively well for the Great League Remix. Alright, team number 3 is Wigglytuff Double Ghost. I hate 2-shield charm strats, but you know what? They work. And Wigglytuff in a lead or the back is excessively annoying, but it works. So as you see here, this is utilizing the Wigglytuff 2-shield strat, and then you have double Safe Switch in Drifblim and Frostless, which essentially you have double Ghost in the back because they cover fighters, which is Wigglytuff's biggest weakness. This team stands at a whooping 549 rating, so it's being used more than both the other teams at a 549 rating. So if you like Wigglytuff 2-shield, most of you don't. If you do, there's nothing wrong with it. I don't mind it. I dislike it heavily. A lot. And yeah. But you know what? It's basically what happens when you have this kind of meta formed out. With dragons, well, not with dragons, but with steel types like G-Fisk and just things that just kind of give, like G-Fisk and Skarmory, you don't have a really good moment against your back row. So as you see with Drifblim and Frostless, it's kind of a double save switch stream, but really it's like using Wigglytuff and the Frostless 2-shield strat. Basically what it is. As you see here, this team has an F for coverage. This team is basically built to just do a tremendous amount of damage and try to run away with murder, which is what Wigglytuff does. But Frost's 2-shield strat is an amazing strategy. Combine that with Wigglytuff and you get this. This team is also pretty annoying because Drifblim will debuff you, and all 3 of these mons basically can just give Diggersby a really hard time. Great safety, great consistency, one of the worst grades, but it still works really freaking well outside of the fact that you see a Registeel in the lead, but like I mentioned, this team does have double coverage against Wigglytuff, so you don't really have to worry about too much. If you get Wigglytuff with the 2-shield, that's great. Wigglytuff can do a lot of damage against the popular Obstagoon leads nowadays. As you see, this team has probably the highest threat score I have ever freaking seen to make a top team in the Great League Remix. 5'8", 26 is ridiculously high. If you see a Charizard, you're probably gonna die. A lot. If it doesn't have Fire Spin, though. But as you see here, this team has a lot of things that can core break in the back. However, despite that, it's still a top team for good reason. Like I mentioned before, Wigglytuff 2-shield, Frost's 2-shield, really freaking strong. Drifblim to close out. Drifblim also has the option of using Icy Wind, so this is a really, really annoying but really effective team for Great League Remix. If you like Wigglytuff, this team is for you. Alright, so for team number 2, we got Mandibuzz, Diggersby, Safe Switch, and Registeel to close out. I like this team a lot, just because Mandibuzz with Air Slash, the thing with Air Slash is it does really well against a lot of different combinations, and with Air Slash you do super effective damage against fighting types. Your back row is weak to fighters, which is why Air Slash is in your best interest, because fighters do resist dark types. Again, Mandibuzz lead, Diggersby, Safe Switch, and Registeel to close out. This team is really strong. If you look at the rating between teams 2 and 3, it's a whole 24-point jump, which from experience is a lot. Which means if you have all 3 of these components, because Diggersby's an XL, and of course Registeel is a legendary, and Mandibuzz you have to get for 12k. So despite the barrier to entry from hell, this team is excessively powerful. And like a death note, if you write your opponent's name in the book, it will go away. No, I'm just kidding. If it was that simple, it'd be. If Pokemon Go PvP was as simple as writing their name in the book and then you win ELO, that would be pretty dang cool. But anyways, despite that, if you make sure you write on your notebooks, this team does have a really great rating overall. A for bulk, B for the rest. great safety, consistency, as well as coverage, and of course, because you basically have 3 super tanks, this team is really freaking good. As you see, does well against a lot of the meta. The only thing about this team that really is an issue is the fighter in the back. A lot of the combinations you see here that you are weak to aren't really, like, you're not super weak against them, but it's by the virtue of you basically eat an Ice Beam or an Ice-type move on Mandibuzz, which would really suck. Yes, a Blizzard on Mandibuzz, even though it won't kill at full HP, will hurt a lot, so just keep that in mind. But as you see here, as long as you don't see that fighter in the back like I mentioned, or if you're up shields and you can Earthquake / Focus Blast or Flash Cannon the Machamp or said fighter in the back, you should do perfectly fine. This team has a particularly low threat score compared to the rest of the combinations on this list, but it's only because, like I mentioned, these 3 are pretty big super tanks, and you won't see a lot of your weaknesses in the lead. Another big thing is it's basically the ice types. Ice types are going to be your big problem, just because if you try to safe switch into Diggersby, it's going to be a little rough because Frostless and other ice types are able to do heavy damage against Mandibuzz or Diggersby, so just keep that in mind. Without Snarl as well, Mandibuzz also does not do super effective damage against Frostless, so be careful about trying to do a farm down play or something like that. And the #1 team for Great League Remix Part 2 is Obstagoon Double Ghost. The most popular lead with 2 ghost Pokemon. I mean, I get it, but like, I am not entertained. As you see, this team does stand at 576, so compare Team 1 and 2 don't have too much of a difference between each other. I mean, anything over 500 is really freaking good. 570 is ridiculous, but as you see, there's nothing super dominant. 600's a ridiculous rating. Even these teams, even though they're super high, it's just basically there's nothing super technical about this team. This Obstagoon's also using Cross Chop and Night Slash. You can have the option of running Gunk Shot or Hyper Beam. There really is no reason to have Cross Chop unless you encounter the Mirror Match, where if you boost anyways, it kind of doesn't really matter in a sense. As you see here, this is Jellicent Safe Switch. Jellicent has Ice Beam, so it is used as your Safe Switch primarily. And then you have Driplim to close out. Double Ghost is really good unless you see unless you see Dark types in the back. D for coverage, when you have Double Ghost in the back, like I mentioned, you do have a few weaknesses to your back row, but that's why you have Obstagoon in the lead. Hopefully you catch the Ghost hopefully you catch the Ghost or your back row's weaknesses in the front. C for bulk, despite the fact that you have Jellicent on your team, unfortunately that doesn't make up for the fact that Obstagoon is not that bulky and it's double weak to fighters, so it's gonna suck a lot if you see a fighter lead. But this basically follows the principle of your lead is weak to fighters, so your back row has double coverage. Great safety, A for consistency, just because all 3 of these Pokemon will do a ton of damage over time. You have nuke moves like Shadow Ball, you have debuff moves like Icy Wind, and you have the potential to boost. This team does really well against Diggersby. It's basically a Kill Diggersby team. Kill Diggersby team, or just have, like I mentioned, double coverage against fighting types, because you do need that with Obstagoon, because Obstagoon dies really fast against the Machamp or Wigglytuff. That's the problem. If you go down to what this team's weak against, normal types will give you a huge issue. Particularly what I'm talking about is Wigglytuff. Your back row does use double Hex. So with that being said, that's why you have Jellicent with Ice Beam. However, it can be rough if your opponent is running double Dark, because there is that Nidoqueen double Dark team running around. Or you have Obstagoon in the back, which does really well against both Drifblim and Jellicent just because of Night Slash spam. Or, even worse, you have Mandibuzz, and the Mandibuzz has Snarl. So there are a lot of scenarios in your back row which could do really bad. Statistically, however, this team is the most powerful team, as you see Obstagoon lead with essentially double coverage against fighting, like I mentioned. Normal types will give you an issue. There's also the issue of your back row having that dark type, like Sableye can be in the back, which can give you a hard time, because Sableye isn't banned, or like I mentioned, dark types in the back. Other than that, this team is insanely powerful. Jellicent with Ice Beam can take switch against certain scenarios, against things like Mandibuzz. If you're able to get extra energy in, and depending on IVs, Jellicent can Ice Beam its way to win switch. So, not all hope is lost. However, just keep in mind there are a lot of weaknesses to this team. So, just be mindful of them. But despite the fact of that, this team is the most powerful team and will still perform well despite all those weaknesses. There's probably a specific way of playing this team, so you're either going to sack Obstagoon, or if you see something like a Wigglytuff lead, you just safe switch into Jellicent and play it out. But again, be aware of your weaknesses. Other than that, this team is the most powerful team statistically for the Great League Remix. And that's GG's. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. This is Great League Remix, so there wasn't too much variety in the top 5. It's kind of to be expected to see like the combinations, Diggersby, Registeel, Obstagoon. It's not a surprise to see those in the teams, or the Frostless 2-Shield strat just being so strong, or Big Pringles, Mr. or Mrs. Pringles, whichever one you have or are using, is really good for the Great League Remix. Hopefully these teams do help you find a way into the last couple of days into Great League Remix, because like I said, I think you have about like 5 days, and if you want to play Great League Remix on Monday before League switch over, then you can do that as well. But again, hopefully these do help. I'm going to be releasing this video, so hopefully this video and the next video, which is my Open Great League, will help you out and get that little last bit of Great League in before the league switches over to Ultra League and Ultra League Remix. Open Ultra League, by the way, so it's not the Ultra Premier. Well, technically it's like XL Premier. It's the open one with legendaries and no holds barred. It's like a no disqualification match from pro wrestling, if you are a fan of that. Anyways, I hope these teams do help you out again. Good. I hope you guys are doing well. It's really, Great League Remix is great in the fact that a lot of teams work. So a lot of these combinations that I presented to you, these top 5, they will get you a lot of W's if you play them well. Hopefully, you guys are considering liking and subscribing. Wow, I really butchered that. Hopefully, you consider liking and subscribing the video because it's totally free. You can easily subscribe by using that little box. If you put your mouse to that bottom right that says subscribe, a sub tab will pop up and you can easily subscribe using that method. Again, it's totally free and really helps out my sub goal for the end of the year for 3K subs. I really do appreciate all of you that are already subscribed, and thank you for all the support up until this time and for the future. And in the future, good luck on your Go Battle League sets, and I will see you guys on the next video.